win? I don't know.
Straight talk. Money matters. International news. Celebrity interviews. Sports.
If I'm being discriminated based on my race, it's not.
Politics. Race.
Let's switch it around. Let's talk healthcare.
Straight talk with award-winning journalist Lloyd Geit.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Lloyd Geit. My guest today does not need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He is a world boxing champ, the inventor of the grilling machine. He's a preacher, and he's also just a really good guy, George Foreman. Thank you so much for joining us today on Straight Talk.
Thank you. I'm happy to be with you.
How you been?
Living the good life. Too much of the good life.
But you are working hard despite living the good life. You are training your son, George, who is boxing.
That's true. I hung up the boxing gloves and I thought it would be forever. All of a sudden I found a son that want to box. My wife insists if he does it, you're in the corner. So I'm the trainer and manager, and it's scary.
That has to be difficult because he's your blood. He's your son.
I think it would be difficult no matter who, because once you train a human being and get them in shape for something like this, when they get hit, you get hit. And that's the way I feel.
But he's doing really well, though, isn't he?
So far, he's had 12 boxing matches, won them all but one by knockout by coincidence.
So what are you thinking this George will be able to do with your tutelage? How far?
In reality, boxing itself is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Wow.
That's what I mean. I mean billion-dollar industry. People have no idea. So at first glance, you kind of laugh and say, what are they doing? Then in the end, you find out, hey, that's what they were doing later on when the bucks start flying. And this is all about early entrepreneurship. Get yourself out there, get yourself in the business of boxing, and it just so happened to take up Dad's line of business, like a family industry.
You guys do have a family industry, that's
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
right.
But let's talk about the danger of boxing. Look at what happened to Muhammad Ali, and look at what has happened to some other boxers. Does that scare you with your son?
I was in the boxing ring. Well, I was listening to a boxing match once, and there was Angelo Dundee in the corner of Muhammad Ali. Larry Holmes was really giving it to him. And no, Muhammad Ali didn't have any quit in him at all. Finally, Angelo D jumped in the ring and said, that's it, I'm stopping the fight. And all of his hangers-on of Muhammad Ali said, you can't stop it. He said, I'm the chief corner man, I stopped the fight. Now, if they had stopped his career at that point, Muhammad wouldn't have been in that condition that he's in. He's suffering now. You know why? Because he had someone who cared about him in his corner. From that point on, he went on. He continued his boxing career, but no one cared anymore. So there is a point when people care about you, you don't have to get hurt. It's not necessary.
And you will always care about your son. You will make sure.
Angelo Dundee said, I'm the chief corner man, and I say that's it. And that's what happens when you direct someone's career in sports. Someone's got to stand up and say, that's it. Could be football, baseball, basketball, that's it.
When you see Muhammad Ali, it's hard for me to see him because it's really quite sad. How do you feel when you see him?
Muhammad Ali has been such a great human being, beautiful. As a matter of fact, I texted his daughter yesterday, and I'm just laughing because he used to be the most humorous. We had never seen anyone with that kind of humor, and what a show, the greatest show on earth. He was like Barnum and Bailey coming to television. He made you laugh, made you mad, boasting. I miss him. I really did. And I don't think we'll have anything like Muhammad Ali for a long time. So when I see him now, my mind jumped right back to the early years when I was enjoying him. So you said he said I was beautiful. He was beautiful. He was beautiful. And I miss him. That takes, whatever else has happened to him is covered with that.
You say that you are living the good life, and you've been very successful as an entrepreneur, but it hasn't always been that way. Growing up, you were pretty darn poor.
You know, and right in Houston, Texas, as a matter of fact.
Fifth Ward.
There's two sides, one side of the track and the other side of the track. I was from the other side of the track. My parents moved in from Marshall, Texas, East Texas, poor when I was a baby, maybe 6 months, and I had no idea what 3 meals in one day meant until I went into a Job Corps program back in the 60s. I couldn't believe that people actually had a bed to themselves and 3 meals per day. I was poor. I guess there has to be another word, po.
That's what we say.
Leave
Po.
out, leave out one R, leave out the R and the other O.
Right.
We were Po.
But you were also bad.
And you growing up, you don't have any supervision. My mom and dad broke up early in life. So there was a mother trying to scare us until she can come home and hopefully we'd be alive when she got there. Dropped out of high school and of course tended to mugging early. I was a thug on the street. I'd mug people. That's what I did. I didn't know any better. I thought everyone was doing it. And I had no supervision. All of my role models had a big scar. They were just coming out of prison. So who was there to tell me that's wrong?
Wow. Tell me the story about your going to school and blowing air into a lunch bag to make it look full. Is that true?
Can you imagine being poor and then having pride at the same time? Because you'd go to school and all the other kids had lunch, and free lunches weren't readily available in my days. And those who had them, they looked nice, so I wanted people to think I had. So I'd walk to school sometime with a bag with a little greasy spot on it and blow it up and act like, oh, I just ate my lunch just as I was coming into school, so the kids would think I actually had a sandwich and I didn't have any. That's what poor with pride. You just can't have both.
Now, was God in your life at that point? As a child, were you raised with God in your life?
And growing up, my mom would always tell us, especially me when I was bad, go read the Bible, boy. And I'd go into the back room, open up the book, look at the photographs and say, wow, and come back and act as though I'd been changed. I didn't even read the Bible. Even as I'd grown up to be a man, I'd see Wherefore out there and the sheep. And I said, this has got to be some sheep herder's handbook. I didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me. So my mother, of course, would always say, oh, Lord, help us, and say a prayer. And I remember thinking, one day I'm going to be rich, and I'm going to deliver her from all of this. Oh, Lord. That's what I thought about religion.
The Job Corps. Tell me a little bit about that, because that is really what turned your life around.
Thank goodness for the Job Corps, because I was a high school dropout and looking for jobs, couldn't find any. I'd gone to the employment office downtown Houston, and I told them my plight, and they said, oh, there's a new program. If you're interested, you'll have to leave home, though. And my friend Roy and I joined up as a partnership. We left Houston in '65 to go to Grants Pass, Oregon. I'd never been out of the city of Houston, much more out of the state of Texas, and then to Oregon. It changed my life. They taught us when I got there, it was like, what have I gotten into? I was homesick, wanted to leave all the time, wanted to fight too sometimes. But they taught us construction work. I even learned electronic assembly there. And not only that, I learned to read a book, a whole book for the first time in my life at about 16, almost 17 years old. I'd gone to school, but strange sometimes when you're in school, in those days, teachers could see you're not gonna make it, and they wouldn't waste much time with you. They'd go else with someone who was certainly gonna do good and spend more time. So after the Job Corps, I read books and started getting interested in education, and it changed my life a little bit. Didn't have the chip on my shoulder, I guess.
Now, how did you start fighting? How did that happen?
I never truly wanted to be a boxer, but I was always getting into fights in the Job Corps, picking on people. I was a big bully. Although I'd gone into the Job Corps, I still couldn't shake this. I'm going to beat you up for this, that, and the other. I didn't steal anything anymore. Wasn't a mugger. And one day in the day room, we were listening to a boxing match. The great Muhammad Ali, he was Cassius Clay then, fighting Floyd Patterson. And the kids just looked at me and said, you big bully, you pick on people, why don't you become a boxer? So I took the challenge. I said, look, I'm gonna be a boxer, I'll show you, just to show those guys. So I transferred from Grants Pass, Oregon into Pleasanton, California. And I met the boxing coach instantly, Doc Brodus, and said, look, I wanna be a boxer, just like I told those guys. He said, come down to the gym, you're big enough, you're ugly enough. And I did, I went down to the gym and took up boxing instantly. I didn't like it. I lost because I couldn't hit the guy. He kept moving out of the way. And he jabbed me and I couldn't catch him. I didn't know about this. I thought we were just going to fight like on the street. But he caught me one day and said, why didn't you come back? You said you want to be a boxer. Are you scared? I said, oh no, I'm not afraid. I took that challenge, came back and started my boxing match, had my first boxing match 1 year. Within 18 months later, I was an Olympic gold medalist. It happened so quickly.
And then you have all these fights and you beat up all these people and then you become this megastar.
Strange. 25 boxing matches as an amateur. I had a gold medal on my neck. A dream, for the first time, something had a dream had come true in my life. I never thought I could do any of that. I was a thug running from police, covering myself with slop under houses so the dogs wouldn't sniff me, and the next day I have a gold medal on my neck. I just couldn't believe it. They tell me, George, now that you've gotten a gold medal, you should be the heavyweight champ of the world. You can make millions. I bought into that, turned pro.
And started making millions.
And from that point on, I started working on making $1 million. I started working hard, one fight after another. 3.5 years later, after I turned professional, I was the #1 contender in the world, and I fought Joe Frazier for the title.
Amazing. You have fought Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, I mean, Ken Norton, and who comes out on top?
You know, all of the time you keep winning and winning and winning, but sometimes you forget why, the full reason you're boxing. I wanted to deliver my family and help them out of poverty and give them a good life and earn a lot of money. And somewhere down the line you forget those things. You get, you know, I lost this, should have won that, those kind of things, and you get depressed because you did lose one. I lost a fight to the great Muhammad Ali. I was depressed. Can you imagine? You have $5 million in the bank, earning 20% a day, and you're depressed because you lost. You can get mixed up there.
You walked away. You walked away. You were gone. You started preaching. How was that 10 years of preaching the word of God?
Well, I didn't have any idea that I'd have religion in my life, but I found Jesus Christ at the latter end of my career. After I'd lost boxing matches in the dressing room, I had an experience. I was dead and alive again.
You saw God?
Yeah, I saw blood on my hand, forehead. I started screaming, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me. I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't even make a fist. For 10 years, I became an evangelist with the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ, preaching on the street corners, visiting prisons and countries, in the same places that I fought. I preached. My whole life changed. 10 years go by quickly, but something profound happened. After 10 years,
what?
I became broke. A profound awakening. I looked up one day and I'd run out of money, and I didn't want to be a boxer. I didn't want to be an athlete, period. But here I had all these children to take care of.
A bunch of them.
A bunch of them. We have 10 kids, and then I had a George Foreman Youth Center to support. I had to go back to boxing.
And you did.
I did.
People said he can't come back. He can't make a difference. He's too fat. You came back. It was unreal.
And so many people laugh, and that's okay. People laugh at you, and I'd read the newspaper. My wife would tell me, stop reading those newspapers early in the morning. You're going to get something you don't want to hear. She was right. I'd read the newspaper. George Foreman is a disgrace. Is he a prophet? Fool? You know, all kind of things like that. And I kept reading them, and I'd go to the mirror and look in the mirror and say, you know, they're only saying these things about you because they're true. What are you going to do? You got your family to look after, even my mother to take care of. What are you going to do? 315 pounds, I had to go to work. Got my body down to 230, kept working one fight after another. They laughed at me. I couldn't do it.
And you laughed all the way to the bank.
In reality, I got a chance to laugh to the bank again.
You got back in the ring, you won all of these fights, and then you became an entrepreneur. The grilling machine.
It's strange because I'm a street preacher. I told you after I'd gotten back into boxing, I'm preaching on the street corner, and I was a shy fighter. I didn't like to talk, deal with people. But on the street corner, you're sitting there and people passing you by. I had to find ways to stop them. Yes, I'm George Foreman. I fought the great Muhammad Ali. And they stopped. Surely is. Mustache, hair is gone, 315 pounds. I sold them just for a few minutes. So when I came back into boxing, I had to go out and sell again. George Foreman, at age 40, is not a death sentence, even 50. Madison Avenue. They peeped in and said, can we jump on this bandwagon? If he can sell himself, he can sell our products. There was Doritos, McDonald's, Pepsi, you name it.
Auto repair shop. Yeah, exactly.
Meineke. They all decided, and one friend told me, he said, George, you know, you're making all these companies wealthy. Why don't you get your own product and make yourself wealthy?
And you did.
Yeah, because they'd pay you maybe $1 million, but after a year they were done, these companies. And I got tired of being dropped like that. So My friends and I started a joint venture. We were going to find products to put into this joint venture, and one happened to be a little strange thing they call a grill. And it was slanted because the grease would go off.
Slow down.
And my wife convinced me that it would work. I got the lion's share of this joint venture, and I started to sell it in the same way I sold the good things that were, and it was an honest thing, because I would not sell anything unless it was in deep honesty. I had to believe in it. And to this day, we've sold over 100 million of those grills, maybe 110 million now.
I got one. My mom has one. My friend has one.
Yeah, only because they work. Yes. It's a good item to have in your house. And I learned that boxers, athletes, what we found out is that we can fill stadiums. We're selling tickets. We should continue to sell and never stop earning. A lot of guys say, this guy's going bankrupt. You never go bankrupt. We just stop earning. Yeah. And that's what I try to tell people. Anyone can go out and sell. And if you learn to sell, you will never starve.
Not only did you do the grilling machine, you've done books, you've done this, you've done that, you did television. What's next? And I like to be asked constantly, what's next, George? And I've got something up my sleeve. The one thing that's most important to me is the George Foreman cleaning products. They're around, and you can find them at QVC, and then they even have his own George Foreman knockout cleaning supplies on the internet. Knockout, I like that.
Because they're good for they're good for the environment, and that you can clean and you don't have to worry about poisoning your animals or your pets. And it's good for the waste out in the field, and is biodegradable. Everything is fine for it. So that's something I want to do, not only for money, but I want it to be a winner for the environment.
You still like to eat. You love food.
Oh, if I tell you what got me in trouble from the beginning, I would sit around a table with the family, and there were 7 of us growing up, and everyone would cover their food because hey, look at him, he's eating fast, watch him. He's going to get done. He's going to take your food. They all had to worry about me snatching their food. And to this day, if you ask me what I like to do, if I could do anything in the world, it was find great places to eat nice food. That's what I like, restaurants.
But now what about your wife? I understand she's an incredible cook.
And my wife can cook. And I'm having some of the children, well, mostly the boys now, they can put something on the fire too, because the George Foreman grill isn't made everybody. But I love food. Find a good food and a good fish, I live for those things.
Now, I always ask you about this, and it's so funny. Your sons are all named George Edward. Why did you do that? And I'm sure you're so used to that question by now that you can just spit it out.
Well, I fought Muhammad Ali, and he hit me right here. Then I fought Joe Frazier, and he hit me there. Ken Norton there. Evander Holyfield there, and there.
But he didn't bite you?
No. So once these guys hit you with all these shots, how many names can you remember?
Not a whole lot.
So I named them all George. I told my wife the day I forget one of my boys' name, I'll stop boxing. I haven't forgot. They're all George.
Yeah, I refer to George. I know George 3 and George 4, so I refer to them by the number.
That's right. But in reality, you wanted to give those guys something that they would have, they could never lose. Get something that binds them, no matter where they are. They can find each other, and their children can find one another. Yeah, a name is what you make of it. And the name George Foreman now stands for something. It doesn't matter. People say, well, where did that name come from? Is that an American name? No. You say George Foreman, they tell you, oh, that's that boxers. It stands for quality there, and George Foreman, the ex-boxer.
And brilliance, because you have to be brilliant to be the marketer and the entrepreneur that you are, and people can't take that from you.
And I like to make certain that my children get out there and make their stand too. Even my son, Monk, we call him, he's George III. He's had his 12th boxing match. People ask, well, why did you start so late? Dad insists that you get a college degree first.
And he did. He went to what? Where did he go?
Rice University.
Exactly, yeah.
From Rice University. So not only is he a good boxer, he's a geek.
Very intelligent man.
Yeah, and you know what? He's intelligent. He would even run my affairs for a long time. But he wanted to be a boxer. I said, look, if any of you decide to want to be a boxer, just get a college degree. And then I'm ready to go. Get a master's, and I'll see that you be champion of the world quick.
Uh-oh. Now, you also wanted to name your girls George, but your wife said, no way.
I had an idea. I wanted to name everybody in the family George. My wife said, look, George, I'll remember the rest. Stop it. Because there's Georgetta and Frida George. Things got out of hand.
It is always such a delight to talk to you. I cannot wait to see what you're going to do in the future because you've done so many things already and you're only 62 years old.
Yeah, the most important, I want to just keep living.
And we think that you will.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Talk. My guest has been the legendary George Foreman. He is quite an individual and he's just a funny, good, decent guy. We will see you next week on Straight Talk with another exciting guest. See you then.
Straight Talk with award-winning journalist Lloyd Geit.